Hello there, Adam Bazalgette here, founder of Scratch Golf Academy. Today, greenside bunker shots, handling different lies. We'll look briefly at general technique, but primarily we're going to talk about adjustments for different sorts of lies. 6 of them. That may seem like a lot, but it's easy stuff. We'll breeze right through it. Well, that was a fairly short shot, but that's our first 2 categories, long and short greenside bunker shots. The simple rule is the more loft and the less speed, the shorter it goes. So think of a smooth 8-iron versus a hard 6-iron. It's obvious, less loft, more speed goes farther. So that's the big consideration. It's not just club selection. I've got a gap wedge here. That would certainly be advisable for most people, or even a pitching wedge if it's a long greenside bunker shot, less loft. But you have to vary your speed, and on your lob wedge or your sand wedge, you can open the face up again to add loft, take a little size and speed out of the swing. This is obvious stuff, but bear one little thing in mind. It takes about 3 to 4 times the club head speed to get to a hole on a typical greenside bunker shot that's hit properly that it would take were you on the turf chipping it. So you need, if that pin's across the green, you need to take a real whack at it and take enough sand. And again, vary your club selection. Okay, our next situation, fluffy, deep, soft sand. It's actually quite nice to play out of, but it is very easy to get excessively deep and chunk the ball. So we're going to assume you're on a reasonable plane. We're going to make a couple of different adjustments. Open the face up a little bit. That adds bounce. The bottom of the club is sticking lower than the leading edge now. Square face cuts more. So open the face and try to skip the club off the sand. Picture taking your backhand and just brushing sand like that. That's more the way you want to release it a little bit. Get the club to glide off the sand. There is, however, a pitfall for many golfers. Let's have a look at a pro for just a minute and just show you what they're still doing and what they're not doing. Well, here's Louis Oosthuizen. You can see the club face is miles open. It's pointed straight up at the sky. That would be too much of a lofted face for most players to handle, but watch something here. There's no question he comes in. We know the face is very open and lofted. There's no question he slides the club under the ball much more than he would normally do trapping a short iron. But if you look at that, he still has tremendous lag coming in. His hands reach the golf ball well before the club head does. So he's still making contact pretty close to the ball with most of the divot beyond the ball. A lot of times when average players come in and they try to give it a little scoop at the bottom, they hit the sand way back here and they either chunk it or come out of the divot and thin one. So you still need lag. Next category, firm sand. I have a good lie, but it's fairly packed and down there. Could be after it's rained. Maybe you play up north and it's in the spring and the sand is really packed down. Whatever the case, you still have to take a divot under the ball. It's really difficult to pick it off the top when you have a sand or lob wedge. So a couple of recommendations. The underpinning thing is shaft lean through impact. It's more difficult to penetrate hard sand than it is soft sand. So maybe a little bit less open with the club for sure so it doesn't skip as much. Definitely though, shaft lean through impact is the key. I can apply pressure this way. I'm not in danger of skipping off the sand. So I might play the ball slightly farther back, but certainly I'm going to emphasize a punchy short finish where I'm applying pressure through impact. Let's have a go. That's the idea. Keep the pressure applied. Now, if you're a scooper, the category we just talked about online, you're drop kicking and thinning shots, you might want to put a little bit of this in your game there. And just to touch on something briefly, you hear so many ideas, big wide stance, set your weight left, all these things. There is some merit to those ideas, but if you're not a very skilled or strong player, I wouldn't recommend it. A tour pro can do all this stuff and hit the ball pretty far. Most people, though, they don't get enough club head speed. Too much of a departure from the norm affects their ability to take a good divot pattern. Here's our final 2 lies. This is what I might call a cuppy lie. It's not buried, but I've deliberately created a dent there. You'll get these heel prints, things like that, little depressions in the sand. The ball is sitting down a bit. This, of course, is the classic buried lie. And the ball is sitting way down. Here's the principle, then we'll tackle it. You have got to get the leading edge of your sand wedge below the ball. It's going to be more difficult in this case, so you need a pretty severe angle of attack. In each case, let's tackle it. Okay, final 2 lies. Here's a little bit of a cuppy lie. Now, when we're finished with these last 2, and they're fairly simple in theory at least, I want to make just a couple of points here momentarily that I think will really help you put things together, make it work for you. So, cuppy lie. Obviously now it's not only firm sand, well, it's not necessarily firm sand, but the requirement for depth and penetration of the sand is greater because the bottom of the ball's lower. I've got to get the bottom of that club, the leading edge below the ball. So I'm going to borrow from what we did on the firm sand. This time I'm going to square the club in a little bit, make it sharper, and I'm really going to emphasize with the ball slightly back, a very punchy swing with the grip end way forward, like that. And I'm being a little bit over cautious in terms of making sure I take enough divot. Obviously, you're not going to get the same type of spin and loft you would like to have. And then, of course, there's our plug lie. Now I need the deepest of all divots. The bottom of that ball's, I don't know, 1.5 inches or 2 below the surface of the sand. And I'm going to do something a little different here. Certainly, I'll square the club in a little bit. Possibly, if you're not as physically strong a golfer, maybe a pitching wedge has a sharper edge than your sand wedge. Not only am I going to have a punchy finish and lean the club, but I'm going to borrow a little extra steepness by making my plane more steep. I hate this sort of a look in general, but it can be useful in deep, deep rough or something like this. So to get some extra angle, that would be straight down. Obviously, I don't want that. More here. Pick my arms up less on the normal plane. See how we do. Not too bad. Caught it just a little bit on the clean side. It's probably on the back edge of the green. Okay, final points here. It's just simple geometry. You have to get the leading edge of the club under the ball. You have to have reasonably appropriate speed, etc. The same stuff doesn't work for everybody. A novice player that's 65 years old and hasn't played sports in 20 years does not have the same impact tendencies as an LPGA or PGA player. So remember, if you're generally a thinner or a drop kicker, you might need a little bit more pickup in your golf swing to create some angle of attack until you get more adept at having wrist cock coming down, having lag. And you just have to mix and match club selections. How open can you play the club face? Again, if you're an unskilled player, opening the club face wide up is a pretty challenging and daunting thing. So mix and match. Find out which tendency, steepness, shallowness, loft, less loft, leading front edge, etc., which tendency you need does what, and mix it in until you get what you need a little bit, until you improve as a golfer maybe a little bit. Then you can do some of the more classic things. Think about it, go through these things. I hope they help you.